Hey guys, Primal Chaos here. Welcome to the channel. This is one that's been probably coming for a fairly long time. I did a Northlane video a while back. Can't remember the name of it, and it was great. I enjoyed it, but I never really got back to these guys, and it's a real problem for me because they're from Sydney. They're from where I'm from, so it'd be interesting to sort of see what they've been up to. I know that the song I did before was quite an old song, so this is one of their more recent ones. In fact, it's just off their new album that came out the other day, which kind of reminded me I need to get back to Northlane. And look, Northlane are one of those bands that have always been around my periphery for a really long time because most of my friends who are into rock and metal are huge fans of these guys. And for whatever reason, they just never really crossed my path. You know, I was kind of in my own lane and I wasn't veering too far left or right. And that's been the whole purpose of this channel is to get to know bands that were kind of outside my comfort zone, because there's a lot of talent out there and I just wasn't being exposed to it. So that was the whole key, opening up the world, or my world, to, you know, bands with amazing musical talent, but potentially with like more aggressive vocals and stuff, which I wasn't super keen on. So now that that's all changed and I'm completely fallen down the rabbit hole, yeah, it's about time I gave these guys the credit that they deserve. The new album Obsidian just came out the other day, or very recently anyway. And this is a single it's apparently about a month old, called Carbonized. So let's see where they're at. I just want to see, I've got some preconceived notions of what I think Northlane is. But I think that's been challenged because I sort of heard some talk that they're a little bit more electronic, or a little bit more sort of down that sort of EDM kind of club music aesthetic that a lot of bands are sort of opting for recently in recent years, like, you know, Bring Me the Horizon and stuff like that. They're a little bit less raw metal, a little bit more dance influence, you know. And so this is what I hear. Let's see if it's true. I got no idea. This is Northlane, Carbonized. Yeah, it's already very synth heavy.
Mirrors and smoke hit it with a fresh coat. Mirrors and smoke hit it with a fresh coat. Mirrors and smoke hit it with a fresh coat. If the shit floats, run into the main line. Sugar sweet with a bitter bitch. Strip the pain of this brain. Your brain remains no blind. Conspire to keep it quiet. You run for cover, but still lit the fire. Now your terror's at an end. Disappear into the wind, never to be seen again. We're wearing idle lies.
I like his voice.
It's not a reflection of what you glorify. And for now, once the sun comes out, you'll be carbonized.
Oh, okay.
You're making shadow shifts like an incubus. You'll be carbonized. It sounds alright. I've been talking to my.
Wow. Okay, that's wild. All right, so kind of what I was expecting from like a genre perspective, but this is some really interesting things to talk about here. First of all, I love that sort of low bass sound, the sort of rumbly, growly, sort of kind of bass. But more than anything, it's just sort of, it's got a cool sort of walking pace to it. I like his voice because it seems like he's found a really natural way to produce like that gravelly fry sound. He sort of can shift between like almost like a clean vocal, but with grit in it, to like a full on really comfortably. And it's kind of cool to see that because it feels natural. Like it doesn't, you know, like a lot of artists will be just rah, 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 the whole way through, which is good. And that's fine. That's part of the genre. But I love it when a singer can sort of figure out how to work like extreme fry vocals into what they're doing in a way that sounds like it's supposed to be there. It's just natural. And that's really cool. I really dig that. This is the trend I'm noticing. The last 3 videos I've done with these types of bands have been the same thing. They've got really sort of essentially pretty basic verses, intros with, you know, catchy sort of guitar hooks and little bits and pieces. But then they'll go into a chorus that will just be elevated by some sort of synthetic element underneath. And so sometimes that takes the, you know, a lot of bands like, you know, your Spirit Boxes. I'm trying to think who I did recently. I did another video, it hasn't been uploaded yet. I picked up the same thing. They do this layer of synthetic sound underneath the rest of the instruments, whether it's produced by a guitar that's heavily affected, or whether it's a synth, or whether it's just a sample or something like that. It takes the place of that whole thing where traditionally with a band, if you wanted a chorus to really pop, you'd leave stuff out of the verse. Like, for example, there's tons of songs out there with, you know, guitar-based rock bands where the guitar doesn't play through the verses. Muse does it all the time, where they'll just be like bass and drums and maybe, you know, some samples or a piano part or something like that through the verses. But when the chorus comes in, that's when the guitar comes in. And so it gives it that more of a dynamic pump, you know. And so in this case, what they've done is they've used a sample or a synth sound or something underneath that almost sounds like a dissonant choir of voices, like screaming out. Like if you listen back. You hear it? It sounds like, just like, imagine like a crowd, like a stadium crowd, all singing, all slightly out of tune with each other, and you just get this haze of just whoosh, kind of noise. See if you can hear it. Yeah, it's literally just a synth, but it's, I guess, maybe a lot of reverb on it. It's kind of a very granular sort of synth sound. It sounds kind of like, I don't know, the word that keeps wanting to come out of my mouth is dusty. It's like a sort of dusty synth sound. But it works really well. It sounds fantastic. Yeah, listen, one of the things I do on this channel is I've done a handful of them so far, of breakdowns of songs where I get a hold of the stems of the song, so I can mute the vocals, or I can turn off the guitars, or, you know, whatever. If somebody knows anyone from Northlane who could potentially allow me access to the stems of this song, I would love to do a breakdown of this song that way, so we can hear that synth sound by itself and go, okay, that's what it sounds like out of context without the guitars. And do these guys even have a bass player? I'm not even sure. A lot of bands don't now. But, you know, if you're watching this and you have that kind of access, could you please forward this to them, or anybody who might be able to help? I'd love to be able to get a hold of the stems and do a full deep analysis of this song, because there's some really interesting sounds going on in there. Anyway, I've waffled on too much. Let's go back. We'll hear that chorus again, then go from there. It's not a reflection of what you glorify. Great clean vocal. I've been talking to my conscience. It's the brokenness of conscience, training my instincts to be cautious, to remember that you're toxic. Definitely bass in there. Pretending we're outside. It's not a reflection of what I glorify. Oh, I like that. Cool. I looked up to you, but you looked down on them. Predatory through and through, and you call yourself a man. And you call yourself a man. Great vocal. Wow. Okay, we're back in the chorus now. I don't like to, I get a lot of heat for like stopping during breakdowns. So I had to let that one go. But listen, there is that weird sort of sort of sound. I wonder if it's a guitar with effects on it. I honestly don't know, because that's the problem. Guitars that are hugely affected don't sound like guitars, so you can never tell. Seems like he's playing something, but regardless, it seems like the one thing that's missing from this part is, like I said before, they've taken the guitars out. There's bass, drums, and that wow sort of sound, which could be the guitar, but that bulk noise of like distorted wall of sound rock isn't there. So they've allowed that sort of weird sample sound to breathe. Really cool composition. Yes.
It's not a reflection of what I glorify. Come on!
Oh. So I can hear bass guitar in there, so it's not the bass.
I looked up to you, but you looked down on them. Predatory through and through, and you call yourself a man.
Guitar back in.
And you call yourself a man.
And I think that sound is still there, it's just really quiet now.
Hide for now. Once the sun comes out, you'll be carbonized. You're making shadow shifts like an incubus. You'll be carbonized. It's such a
Oh, that's big. Big note.
once the sun comes out, you'll be carbonized. You're making shadow shift like an incubus.
Great video, man. Wow.
You'll be carbonized. I've got no heroes anymore.
Nice. What a quality song. Hang around after the break, I'll give you a full summary. Hey guys, this video was made possible by Enchroma. 1 in 6 guys and 1 in 200 women are colorblind, and if that happens to be you, there's something you can do about it. Click the link in the description, it'll take you to Enchroma's website where you can get a free eye test. And while you're there, maybe pick up some corrective lenses. They've got styles to suit everybody and a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you got really nothing to lose. And while you're there, use the code CHAOS in checkout to get 10% off. Tell them Primal Chaos sent you. So what are my impressions? Look, it seems, and I know these guys aren't new, they've been around for a while, but this seems really sort of elevated from from the trajectory of a band's career. This is up there with like good material, or probably best material from an outsider looking in. Like, I don't have the back knowledge. I don't know, a lot of their original material to compare it to, but this is a really polished, well thought out composition. It rocks. It's got enough in there to keep you interested. In a way, it's funny because I know that this genre isn't quintessentially Australian, right? There's a lot of bands around the world doing this kind of material. But there's something about these guys particularly that kind of strikes me as still having an Aussie flavor to them. And maybe the reason I'm thinking of that is because to me, I kind of compare this to, in a way, to like an evolution of sort of like where Butterfly Effect was, right? Where they've taken, when you break Butterfly Effect down, obviously they had an amazing singer in Clint Bogue, but musically they had some really interesting, very polished concepts rhythmically and stuff like that. But the key to them was, it was always about strong melody, like always really catchy hooks. The melodies flowed a lot, without sort of, always somehow still leaving room for a big melody through the choruses and stuff like that. And I feel like these guys sort of have that same ethic as far as like composing and stuff like that. Like the chorus is really big and strong and powerful, but it's not quite as baseline as a lot of other bands in this genre are doing, where they keep the chorus really simple, because that's the concept, right? Keep it simple, stupid. Is like, let's have a really simple melody through the chorus, Architects was the band I did the other day. Their chorus for their new song "When We Were Young," the melody is "When we were young, we thought we'd all had it figured out." It's just a simple melody, and it's super catchy, right? And I dig that song. It's been on high rotation, but it's super catchy in its simplicity. It's a simple melody. They've underpinned it with, again, a synthy kind of sound to make it pop, and big heavy riffs and stuff like that over the top. But what I'm getting at is these guys sort of are doing that, but this chorus is a little bit more elegant in its melody, because it's not quite as, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it's not as simplistic, essentially. They've opted for having a little bit more creativity in the melody through the chorus, which is a risk because you can sort of go off topic a little bit if you put too much color into the chorus. But they keep the verses pretty straight so that they can afford it, you know. Like, there's not really a lot of melody in the verses because it's mostly screamed. But yeah, look, this is what I'm getting at is I really like that direction with these guys, and it does remind me of, like, let's not go with the very first instinct. Let's push this and massage it and come up with something slightly more elevated, but still keep it simplistic enough for it to be a poppy sort of catchy chorus, you know, a great hook. But yeah, that's honestly, man, this is a great song. I was too busy looking at all the cool digital effects and listening to the vocals to notice. I'm sure I saw a bass player in there, maybe a guitar player and a drummer. But with video clips, it's really hard to tell sometimes who's who in the band. I think when I looked it up, they're currently a 4-piece with Marcus being the singer, Nick the drummer, John and Josh. It just lists them as guitarists, so I'm not sure if one of them's the bass player or not. But let me know in the comments. I'd love to know more about these guys. And to be honest, I should be all up on these guys because Sydney, you know, I've played in probably a lot of the same venues as these guys. So, yeah, no, this was a lot of fun. I will definitely check out more Northlane. Give me some ideas about what to do. And again, if anybody happens to know anybody who might be able to have access to some raw files or stems for these guys that I can critically analyze, I would love to be able to hear how this song's put together. This, in the same way that I did Bring Me the Horizon song as well, and it was just a lot of fun to hear all the individual parts and how they fit. So that would be fantastic if anyone can help me out with that. As always, if you feel like I've brightened your day at all, feel free to support the channel just by buying me a coffee. There's a link in the description, or like, follow, share, subscribe, all that stuff. But most of all, give me some thoughts on what you think of this song. What's your favorite Northlane song, and maybe something I should react to that has a great video or something like that. That'd be great. Thanks again, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.